The microbiome and the facets of intimate care, sensible and gentle. Researched by Dr. Hans Lautenschlager. Explored and presented by Florence Barrett-Hill. The global market for personal care products is expected to increase to a total market value of $500 billion by 2020. The market for product ingredients will likely grow even faster over most of the same forecast period. The personal care market has been fueled by the prominent role women play in both the work and play environment. An example is female intimate care. The female intimate care market has also evolved over the last 55 years, from the time when sanitary pads could only be purchased in a pharmacy with 3 brands to choose from, to now when the selection of these personal care items is so vast that they have shelves dedicated to them in supermarkets. What effect do all of these products have on the skin microbiome? Is it time to carefully consider the kind of products to use for personal care and the kind of products to disregard? Our knowledge base about skin is constantly being expanded, taking us down a pathway that makes us consider those microbes that live in and on our bodies as essential. The network of microbial specialists in and around our body, called microbiome, have their specific way of life and offer various and useful metabolic services. However, will the microbiome survive the personal care industry? Since the mid-1980s, the acid mantle has been considered the first line of skin barrier defense, and we understood that the skin's natural flora resided in or on that acid mantle, that the natural flora had evolved to live in the acidic environment, and that the acidity of that acid mantle protects us from bacteria that has not evolved to live in an acidic ecosystem. What we had not done is thought of the acid mantle and the microbiome as a team, and often only considered one when choosing modalities or product, and that was usually the acid mantle. The microbiome was an afterthought. The advantages of a microbiome are: the microflora or microbiome helps maintain the low pH of the skin. The microflora or microbiome inhibits the growth of more harmful bacteria. Trains the immune system by producing endogenic antimicrobial peptides, AMP. They also consume the limited amount of nutrients available on the surface of the skin, making it hard for other bacteria to establish themselves. The advantages of the physical mantle of epidermic lipids, sebaceous and pseudophorous secretions, the acid mantle. Helps prevent toxic matter from being absorbed into the skin, in addition to helping buffer the action of acid and alkaline chemicals. Acts as the skin's primary lubricant. The acid mantle also controls the water movement through the epidermis, transepidermal water loss, or TEWL. Just reading through this list should illustrate the fact that the ecosystem of acid mantle and microbiome has far-reaching effects throughout the whole of the epidermis. Will these first lines of skin barrier defense survive the personal care industry? Microorganisms usually live on the epithelium of the oral cavity, the gastrointestinal tract, the uterus, cervix and vagina, the respiratory system and the skin, or in other words, everywhere where external substances are absorbed, waste products are disposed of, or where humans protect themselves against environmental substances. In the course of evolution, the human body has adapted itself to the situation by producing antimicrobial peptides, AMP, continually reproducing secretions, arranging with certain types of microorganisms, and even entering into a symbiosis with them. Depending on the specific flora, a characteristic and typical pH value of the body area evolves, and non-resident external microorganisms are successfully kept out. A finely tuned balance that ensures physical integrity. Will this adaptation survive the personal care industry? Every negative external influence of daily life disturbs the balance, and this disruption also applies to the myriad of hygiene and skincare preparations available today. All are going to contribute to microbiome disruption. The modern woman juggles many roles in her lifetime, at the same time adapting to many changes in her body. These changes are hormonal imbalances that involve puberty, menstruation as well as pregnancy, lactation period, menopause, and the subsequent symptoms of old age. Every one of these bodily states is challenging, and the female personal and intimate care with emphasis on hygiene has become an essential element in this modern woman's situation. Just as the epidermis has the acid mantle and microbiome to protect the inner world of skin from elements, the intimate areas also have built-in defense systems that will protect that other hidden inner world of epithelial tissue. The thick mucus of the cervical glands in the uterus neck prevents germs from penetrating into the uterus. The sebaceous glands of the vulva and sweat glands produce secretions, together with the local flora, forming an acidic milieu that inhibits the growth of germs not adapted to this environment. The low alkaline mucus of the cervical glands, consisting of polysaccharides, salts, enzymes, and cell residues, in turn inhibits the penetration of germs into the uterus. The pH level of the vaginal secretion is around 4 and formed by lactic acid bacteria. The bacteria form lactic and acetic acid through degradation of maltose and dextrose. These monosaccharides in turn result from cleavage of polysaccharides such as glycogen. Microorganisms feel most comfortable in the warm and humid milieu of the body orifices. Therefore, it is important that the local flora of vagina and vulva is not destabilized. The substances from the secretions and typical body odor are normal nevertheless. The secretions frequently are perceived as being unhygienic and embarrassing. As a consequence, women try to keep their genital area clean in a variety of ways and affect the natural balance of the extremely sensitive area. Bactericidal agents from deodorants and feminine hygiene products may unselectively kill all the germs, including the microorganisms required for a healthy flora and the respective pH level. Bactericidal substances, such as the chloroaromatic triclosan, should not be used in the genital area. Allergenic bactericides and perfume components easily penetrate into the unprotected skin and the mucous membranes, compounding existing allergic contact dermatitis disorders or those with filaggrin mutations. Increased risk of unwanted infections, such as fungi-induced Candida albicans. If both the low pH and endogenic antimicrobial peptide processes are interfered with by over-cleansing and sterile skin conditions, a damaged skin barrier and disordered antimicrobial peptide balance facilitate the penetration of pathogenic germs into the skin and consequently also associated infections, accelerating skin barrier disorders. Cleansing preparations such as soap bars, liquid soap or shower cream are not always necessary. When they are used, it is recommended to avoid irritant emulsifiers and tensides. The preservatives of the cosmetic directive, some of them are suspected of being endocrine disruptors, should also be avoided with regard to the female intimate flora. In the case of atopic skin and perianal barrier disorders, care has to be taken that the products do not contain surface active refatteners. In these cases, it is preferable to apply skin barrier identical substances in the form of lamellar creams or non-aqueous oleogels in the anal area. A lot of problems arise from the idea that the genital area should be clinically clean and that possibly developing odours have to be fought immediately. This often results in treatments like vaginal douches, which are counterproductive since the natural balance will completely be disturbed with exactly the consequences that were intended to avoid. This finally triggers a vicious circle with the result that facultative pathogenic germs will thrive, spread, and finally enter into the genitourinary tract. It leads to itching, burning sensations, and irritations. The then occurring fishy odours emanating from amines, as for instance trimethylamine, indicate a disordered microbiome or even are a symptom of infections. Inappropriate bactericidal vaginal sprays, deodorants, sanitary pads and hygiene wipes to cover the body odours create even more confusion in a once natural balance. In addition, bactericides and perfume components can penetrate into the unprotected mucous membranes or skin parts of the sensitive area and can have allergenic effects. It is recommended to refrain from most of these seemingly advantageous tools. They should not be used in the genital area. In the case that skin or mucous membranes are irritated due to frequent cleansings, it is advisable to use vegetable oils for the cleansing. Avocado oil, for instance, can be used for cleansings, but also for the subsequent skincare. The fatty acid spectrum of the oil and the phytosterols contained are a good match for the physiological conditions of the skin. In the case of barrier disorders, the water should be tested for hardness components, since they react with the cutaneous fatty acids and intensify the disorders through formation of calcium and magnesium salts. The pH values of the cleansing products can be neutral up to lightly acidic. It is not required to adapt the preparations to the acidic milieu, for example of the vagina, pH 4, since the preparations are immediately washed off with water, and since the cleansing should be limited to the external parts of the genital organs. It often is sufficient to just use plain water without any additional products for an appropriate cleansing. All the parts work together to do what needs to be done, and everything has a purpose. Or it seems almost everything. While it is obvious that, say, eyelashes and nose hairs protect our eyes and noses from stuff getting in them, what about pubic hair? Pubic hair provides a cushion against friction that can cause skin abrasion and injury, and a protection of the intimate inner world from bacteria and other unwanted pathogens. Contamination from the toilet water to the genital area has led to an increase in Candida albicans. When that irritation is combined with the warm, moist environment of the genitals, it becomes a happy culture medium for some of the nastiest of bacterial pathogens, namely Group A Streptococcus, Staphylococcus aureus, and its recently mutated cousin, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA. Total removal of the pubic hair intensifies the problem. A further unfavourable factor is skin-tight clothing. Hence, the genital area is completely sealed off most of the day, which results in an increased temperature and in about 100% atmospheric humidity. An excellent matrix for germs which perfectly settle down in skin and mucous membrane, since fabric, pads, etc. absorb the various secretions of vulva and vagina. The constantly humid milieu causes a swelling of the skin surface, and the fabric-to-skin friction additionally supports the spreading of germs. Occlusive conditions are perfectly complied with when the underwear is made of synthetic material. Cleansing preparations such as soap bars, liquid soap or shower cream are not always necessary. When they are used, it is recommended to avoid irritant emulsifiers and tensides. The preservatives of the cosmetic directive, some of them are suspected of being endocrine disruptors, should also be avoided with regard to the female intimate flora. Since the genital area is well equipped with sebaceous glands, there is often no need for fatty creams. However, if the application of such creams is indicated, emulsifier-free creams are preferable because their lipid substances are adapted to the natural conditions of the skin, similar to the facial care of sensitive skin. Preservatives have counterproductive effects also in this case. The pH level of cream preparations with a high content of buffer substances, phosphates, citrates, etc., should be adapted to the pH of the areas to be treated. In creams containing small amounts only, or no buffer substances at all, the pH of the preparations only plays a minor role, since the buffering capacity of the skin will immediately adapt to the physiological pH level. Skin barrier identical substances in the form of lamellar creams or non-aqueous oleogels based on phosphatidylcholine penetrate fast into the skin and thus can be beneficial for the skin care in the sensitive anal area. They are advantageous insofar as they also have anti-irritant effects and do not require counterproductive cosmetic additives due to their non-aqueous formulations. Attention should also be paid to the fact that the skincare preparations do not contain perfumes, since they can often cause unwanted reactions in the case of sensitive skin. alcohol denatured with phthalic acid diethyl ester, listed in the INCI as alcohol denatured, should definitely be avoided in the context of intimate care. A tip for women who persist on using refreshing fragrances in the genital area: apply them onto the underwear, where they also are effective and cannot do any harm. Ingredients such as mineral waxes, paraffins, and Vaseline, petrolatum, are also counterproductive substances, since they remain on the skin's surface, intensify the humid and warm conditions by reducing the transepidermal water loss, TEWL, and possibly cause unwanted skin swellings. Liners for underwear made of leak-proof plastic foil are a practical solution during the day, but they are occlusive and support the heat and moisture build-up. Due to today's frequent removal of pubic hair, the sensitive areas get in direct and close contact with the textiles. This intensifies occlusive conditions for one thing, and apart from that also involves that the partly protecting secretions are directly sponged up. Skin irritations often are the consequence. Prescriptions for oral antibiotics in the case of infections and all kinds of spermicidal contraceptives also can lead to disorders in the genital area. In the case of local irritations, sanitary pads are more appropriate than tampons. Special attention should be paid to cleansing and skincare routines during the hormonal changes due to puberty, ingestion of contraceptive pills, pregnancy and menopause, as they affect the metabolism in the genital area. Listed here are common chemicals found to be of concern in intimate care products. I opened this lecture by saying our knowledge base has been expanded by taking us down a pathway that will make us consider those microbes that live in and on our bodies as essential. I close with the same question: will the human microbiome survive the personal care industry?